Autism, it's a mental condition that really impedes on a child's ability to interact with someone socially.
Autism is one of the most prevalent disabilities in the country, with 1 in 45 people diagnosed every year. Yet, many people don't know what autism is or didn't know about autism until they had to face it head on.
Before having autistic children, did you know what autism was?
Kind of, sort of.
A little bit, but not really. There were maybe a few commercials, a few ads out about it, but not much information on it, not as much as it is today.
Yes, I actually did.
No, I did not know what autism was prior to my son being diagnosed.
I knew a little bit about autism when I was in grad school. I'm a social worker.
For working with someone with autism, I grew up in Jamaica, and there you don't really see a lot of people like mental disabilities growing up. So didn't really have a lot of contact with them until I came here. And working with them now is the most contact I've had with people on autism.
Many people don't understand what having autism or being around autistic people are like, especially in an urban setting. Well, this is autism, urban autism, and these are the stories of 3 different families in various stages of diagnosis. This is Braxton. He is 2 years old and just recently diagnosed less than a year ago.
I have a friend, neighbor, she has 2 autistic kids, so I knew a little bit about it from, being in contact with her. I don't think I felt sorry for them. I think that maybe more so felt sorry for my friend, the mother. No, not so much now, because my son Braxton, he's only 2, so I don't feel like we've had to change anything or do anything that would change our lifestyle. As he gets older, I think there might need to be some adjustments. Just when it comes to, how we go out, maybe we would have to plan a little bit more for going out to eat, maybe being in social situations. I think it'll be challenging. A little later, for now I don't really feel like it's so challenging, but maybe in the coming years, depending on how he develops, it could be challenging. I guess with the diagnosis, the doctor tells you you have an autistic child, and I think it's just a matter of processing it. But I think a lot of parents maybe already have an idea that they have a child with autism before the diagnosis. I don't think so. His autism, maybe it's a little different from other kids with autism. Where he is on the spectrum, I think he's very loving. He's the same baby. He's the same 2-year-old he was before his diagnosis.
This is Joshua. He is 12 years old and was diagnosed 9 years ago. This is Sienna. She's 8 years old and was diagnosed 5 years ago.
I have a brother that is severely autistic, but that diagnosis didn't come around until maybe the last 12 or 13 years. I feel like, especially at a very young age, I sensed something was different about him, but I didn't really feel any... I loved him, he was my brother, but I did sense that something was different. I sensed that he was not the same as me.
In my elementary class, there were kids. I didn't look at their autism, I just thought they were kids and they had fun.
Yes, after having autistic children, I feel like I had to be more repetitious than I did with my older child that has no issues. Things had to be more repetitious. I had to be more on top of things and more scheduled. I feel, and it was just a different way of raising an autistic child than it was of raising a child with no particular issues.
They had to change a lot of things. I was no longer having regular kids growing up. I had to set up programs along with my wife in order to take care of my autistic children. I had to navigate through everything in order to be able to live a normal life as possible. Well, you got one autistic kid that screams and you can't control it. One that's impulsive, and one is just a normal teenage kid that doing teenage things.
Hard? I wouldn't say hard, because my teenager was a big help to me with her special needs siblings, because I just feel like she was a huge help. She would help me to do things, and she was a lot willing to help them and help protect them.
Yes. Yes, because I couldn't get close to them. I had to act the way they act and mimic their behavior so I can get on their level.
Just after the diagnosis, I don't think it sunk in. It didn't really sink in until I was actually in the practice of it, when my son started having the really bad kind of severe meltdowns. And when with stimming and stuff, I really didn't pay much attention to those behaviors until maybe a year or two into it. I'm still, at this point, still trying to wrap my head around the fact that I have 2 children that may be depending on me for the rest of my life.
It's out of my hands. Yes, it was God's will.
This is Nason. He is 13 years old and was diagnosed 11 years ago.
The child that I bore, and I know it's going to be able to live a full, productive life, will now not be able to lead that life that I thought he would. So it continues to be a challenge on a daily basis. It gets better. My whole world changed. I don't hang out with my friends anymore. I don't get to hang out with my family as much as I like to. I don't take Nason out around a lot of people as I used to because of the stigma that was associated with autism. So yes, it changed my life drastically. At this point in time in my life, there is nothing that I would want to change about him, except like any other parent to have a child, what society deems normal. I want him to live a productive life and the best life that he can possibly lead.
Living in an urban community, what kind of treatment does your child get in terms of like people reacting to their children?
Well, there's some incidences where my son Josh would scream out of control, people wouldn't understand, and it would upset my wife to the point where she would scream and break down and start crying, and I try to defend him as best I can.
I feel like not a lot of people know. I feel like I'm explaining myself a lot.
Maybe they don't know maybe so much about autism. I don't think a lot of people are very familiar with it. When I told some of my family members, they just were confused maybe, or they thought like, well, oh, he looks normal.
It has been very mixed for the most part. In the very beginning, it was a lot of negative. I used to resent when people would look and stare when Nason would go through one of those involuntary meltdowns or tantrums. So for me, I think the biggest piece was lack of knowledge from the people who were seeing the meltdowns or seeing the behavior associated with his autism.
And finally, what do you think would even the playing field for your children?
Just awareness.
I would just say maybe acceptance. Just people maybe knowing what autism is, what it means.
Though proper education and acceptance in the urban community could take time, we should remember that autism doesn't make them different, it makes them special in the best possible way. And having autism doesn't make them any more different than anyone else in the world. So as the Golden Rule says, we should treat them the way we want to be treated and learn and accept them for who they are.